I think a lot of us have heard of strength-based practices, and a lot of us do try and understand this from the, as you know, we have a feeling that it has just originated in a way in the United States by Dennis Celebi, Charlie Rapp, and several other colleagues who have invested a lot of time, and Canadian and United States has done a whole lot of work around that. But we've also seen that there have been some indigenous methods by which some sort of strength-based practice has also been done in other societies, and I have written on that previously around how one would see Gandhi's models and Rabindranath Tagore's models. But today I'm doing a little bit of departure between the orientations that we've always seen in the strength-based practices, especially from the writings of my gurus and friends like Dennis Celebi and also others. And what I'm going to do is something different, in the sense I'm not going to be talking so much about the social work orientation straight away, but I'm going to see how you react to an everyday thing that you would go to a shop, and you are a shop, there is a shopkeeper and you are a customer. And I saw the transaction myself happening. I came in, I always come back to India almost every year. A few years back, I wanted to buy a small spare part for what we call the douche, which we use in the toilets. Okay. When I was trying to buy that, it's a very small spare part. When I was trying to buy that, the young man was very, very enthusiastic. Instead of selling me a washer, in about 5 minutes or so, he actually sold me the entire douche. Because he said, what's the point? You take this. It may not fit your Australian system. That was the first question. Then he went on to ask, what else do I need? How many toilets do I have? And he moved on and on and on. Why I'm giving you that example is, at the end of the day, I didn't buy one douche, I bought 4. Now, he's a good salesman. I think that's a common sense understanding that I want to impart, that the client relationships and the social work relationships are in no way to be seen any less. Whether you're in public health, whether you're in social work, whether in any of those human services, do understand that there's a possibility for us to always think in terms of sending him something. But I want you to reverse that. I want you to spend some time not selling things, but to listening to the whole story of your clients. Listening to the whole story, rather than immediately going and dealing with the presenting problem. That is what I want you people to take. That's why I call it selling a package instead of a part. Do you have any experience of this? Can anybody, does this example resonate with anybody? You went to buy something, but you bought the entire supermarket because the girl who was there was pretty, not pretty alone, but she was pretty clear about selling everything that she's got in that particular shop. And she was very, very convincing. So what I want you to understand is that we need to hear about the stories from our families, the stories from our clients, the stories from our groups and communities. Practicing from a strengths perspective means that everything you do as an enabler will be based on facilitating of discovery. Discovery of some strengths in the individual, this discovery of the groups, discovery of the community's own strengths. What is strengths perspective? It's an exploration and use of customers and clients, workers, colleagues' strengths and resources to achieve their goals and realize their dreams. So if we have a perspective like that, slowly you will start seeing, how am I going to do that if the clients are in care? How am I going to do that if I'm working in a government program? That's an important question, because you can still do your government program, you can still do what you're supposed to do in a statutory agency, as long as you start listening to their perspectives. The STENS model has been used in clinical and healthcare situations, and I think it's now being used in the corporate world. I have a couple of days conference that I'm presenting to the corporate, particularly those of them who are in the Indian industry, the premier icons of Indian industry. Will be looking at this, and what they are, they contact me because they want to understand how to run corporates, and they want to gain the knowledge from the social services industry. We are rich in telling our stories, we are rich in our narratives, and we also have to be rich in understanding the narratives of our people and the clients with whom we work. Where is it derived from? It's derived from naive realism and also pragmatism, and I think that both these things can be assessed. I believe that these resources, whatever level they occur, are not figments or mere constructions of our minds. I believe that every individual, group, and community has those strengths. I think it's at the time of crisis and trauma or illness and struggle. It may be injurious, but they may be also able to see sources of challenge and opportunity in those situations. One of the important things that I want to say is that we do not have any idea as to what is the upper limit of the capacity to grow and change. Take individual, group, and community aspirations rather seriously. Community strength-based practice is all about caring and caretaking. The lexicon that we use, which of course we are familiar, is all about believing in people and in dialogue, in collaboration, in empowerment, and in belief in healing and in wholeness of those people. The lexicon is about hope, about membership, about plasticity, and it's also about the resiliency. Your lexicon should be about kindness, becoming tolerant, and over time, celebrating the diversity. I'll move into appreciative inquiry. For simple reason, I find a lot of connection for some of the papers that have been done, and today, especially from South Africa, they've utilized appreciative inquiry in their work. It's a shift. Our work in general in human services has focused on problems. We too often ignore the positive core. Many projects, whether they are research projects or action projects, we have worked largely on fixing a problem. Underlying metaphor has always been organizations do have problems. We start with identifying problem. We start at the we conduct a root cause analysis. We do brainstorm and analyze possibilities. We start doing action plans to solve that. Most schools, companies, families, and organizations function on an unwritten rule: let's fix what's wrong and let the strengths take care of themselves. I have a feeling that there are lots of mossies coming around. Is there somebody that can think in terms of citronella or something? Can the organizers look into this, please? Mosquitoes, especially around the green areas. Okay, you can cut that later. Okay. Look across society, you will find the most of our theories, media, and research. Most schools, companies focus on a deficit-based approach. Cultural and organizational consequence of the deficit discourse up to now has been largely fragmentation, few new images of possibility, few self-fulfilling frames and questions, exhaustion, and visionless voice. The experts must know everything. Dependency and hierarchy has been noticed in most of our work. Spirals in deficit vocabulary have been identified. There has been, and there is always, an opportunity for more breakdown in relations, even in meetings, whether they're client meetings or corporate meetings. There is, of course, sense of hopelessness. I'm trying to see an example, not an example, the differences between a problem-solving approach and that of an appreciative inquiry. A problem-solving approach does look at identifying problem, conduct the root cause of analysis, also look at brainstorming solutions and analyze and develop action plans. Nothing wrong in that. But you see the other one that I'm trying to propagate. Appreciative inquiry is about appreciate what is, imagine what might be, determine what should be, create what will be. The questions that you would ask, life-centric questions, sharing high point moments. There have been high points and low points in everybody's life. But I would like you to share with me a time that you consider a high point when you felt most engaged and alive in your work, in your life, in your family. That's my question rather than the question that he's got at this point of time, a problem. The birth of appreciative inquiry, learning to appreciate what it is around interpretation versus appreciation. Nothing wrong in interpretation. We need to do qualitative interpretation. We need to do quantitative interpretation. We need to do that in research. But why not move on to appreciative research, which would possibly have a different dimension? Appreciation draws our eyes towards life and provides inspiration to the imagination, igniting our generative capacity. Appreciative. Valuing. The other meaning of appreciative is valuing. The act of recognizing the best in people and the world around us. Affirming past and present strengths, successes and potentials. To perceive those and to recognize excellence. To increase in value. People do talk about the economy is booming. The economy is appreciating. Valuing, prizing, esteeming, honoring, celebrating. These are the kind of words that we would need. The synonyms for the word inquire are about discovery, search, study, and systematic exploration. The act of exploration and discovery. To ask questions, to be open to seeing new potentials and possibilities. There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that actually created it. We must learn to see the world anew. The three perspectives of appreciative inquiry that I'm coupling in strength-based practice, and I find it very, very useful, are about the past, the present, and the future. Problem-solving approach always looks at the clients have pain, identify the problems, do the cause analysis, and the metaphor there is only problems. The solution-focused one, which some of us have dealt with, but seen in an appreciative inquiry orientation, is about solution analysis, action planning, and also a level of treatment. Inquiry is about valuing, understanding best of what exists with the client, and what is also about envisioning or what might be as far as the future is concerned. It's about the dialogue that you would have, what could and what should be, an innovative way, innovating what will be. Yeah, okay. Can you move that? Can you move? Yeah, that's right. Appreciative, we've seen that. Next move. Okay. Next. Okay. The new insights in relation to appreciative inquiry and that of strength-based practice is about dislodgement of certainty, appreciative from negotiations to narratives, going into listening to the narratives of people. Next. Letting go of deficit-based change vocabularies. Next. Our inquiry must be the change we want to see in the world. Next. Being a student, humble, open, teachable, curious, the power of unconditional positive question is what I'm expecting us to ask as far as our clients and our families are concerned. Our positive images of the future will lead people to positive actions. Next. Words create worlds, so practical. Life is about invention, not survival. We are here to create. Darwin was wrong. Life is not about defending. Everything is in a constant process of discovery and creating. Life organizes and seeks systems so that more may flourish. It's about survival. It's about thriving. It's about flourishing. It is never about the victims. When a mom whose child has just come into care comes back to you, you're not going to discuss immediately about, you will of course tell her what happens on Monday in the court, but obviously you're going to ask her a few questions. And the way to go about those few questions would be, what is it that you would want at the end of the day? Especially as a clinician or as a social worker. At some point of time, you want to unite the child with the family. If that is the case, you will have to move towards unification questions. In other words, what actually worked before well is what you need to establish. What did not work at this point of time is of least consequence. Because what did not work, you have already taken that particular person, the little child, into care because there were circumstances which were not working at that point of time. So you want to delve into times when there were good times. You want to see whether there is an opportunity for mother to think in terms of good times for the future. You want to establish that she is really concerned of wanting to have those good times again. You would then move on to think in terms of what arrangements, what sacrifices, what minimal conditions that you would actually do in order to bring back those good times. It is at that point of time you may keep visiting, because the current problem, in a way, in the structural framework that you have got, especially in the West, has already been dealt with. The child has come into care. That is the reality. Tomorrow is not going to be released, but in future there's a possibility of reuniting the family together. But in order to do that, a few conditions must come up. Those conditions must come up from the family. The conditions must come up with the preparation of the mother. The conditions must come up as a result of what worked well for her. So that what worked well for her in the past is very likely to influence her, because she could take the step once again. At this point of time in crisis, at this point of time in trauma, she is not in a position to kind of recollect what could be the most immediate step. To that extent, of course, the most powerful, at the same time, loving, caring expert that you are, you will deal with it in a statutory way. You're not going to bend every rule, but you are definitely going to be an advocate. It is in that advocacy, it's your appreciation of the situation that helps. Next. Individuals and groups can then weave the best of what is into formal and informal practice. Move on. When organizations or groups capture positive imagery internally and make it visible, it starts to drive change in an individualistic, self-directed way. People have talked about how school teachers can do the change. They talk about the positives of the child, what's working for him, and that can talk and make a big difference. Change a teacher's perspective about a student. She will not, if she considers is a fantastic child, you have more time to improve. You've done 75, you could do 85. That makes things work. You're always 75 is not the kind of term with which a teacher would do. If we have sensitized our teaching in such a way that we got to be positive, I think there's a way for us to be positive too. Next. We need to have lovely internal conversations. We need to leave the clients and the families and the communities to have a little bit of conversation among themselves as to what could be well, and then they can come back and talk to us. Our images of the future drive us to action. There's also a placebo effect people have talked about, and a number of people have utilized that. Help someone construct an image of how something might happen because it drives behavior in a very, very positive way. Life, when it is most effective in economic and human times, is the idea of human and positive change. Link the positive core directly to any strategic agenda, and changes never thought possible are more rapidly mobilized. Next. I'm going to compare the problem solving to appreciative inquiry. Problem solving approach is about what to fix. Underlying grammar is about problems, symptoms, causes, solutions, actions, and some futures. Appreciative inquiry is about what to grow. It's a new grammar of the true, good, better, and possible. Next. The problem-solving approach breaks things into pieces, things into chunks. Wonderful for us to do so that we can have manageable chunks. It's not bad to have that. It guarantees fragmented responses also. That is dangerous. Appreciative inquiry is problem focus implies that there's an ideal for which you need to grow. AI breaks open the box of what the ideal is first. Next. Next. When you think in terms of turnovers, of the clients, turnovers in the organizations, think of a time when you felt magnetically connected to your client, your colleagues, and your community. Next. Connected in a way that the force was so strong that it could not be broken. What was that experience like? Think about that. And what did it do to the client, and what did it do to you? A strength-based practice is a mutual practice. It's an opportunity for you to learn not just about the client, but also it teaches a whole lot of behaviors for yourself to carry on and move on from time to time. As you look into the future, describe how you see us connected to our customer and our colleagues. Customer can be changed to client, it can be changed to a partnership word. Move on, please. In ways that are so strong that we are seen as inseparable business partners. I love the way in the afternoon in one of the sessions, I think it's one of our Canadian colleagues, Dr. Miriam George, talked about how clinicians are also so very deeply client-centered. And it is possible for them, even in structural modes, to be open, to listen, to do those kind of things. But in some places, it's really not working. So that's where we need to appeal. Enthusiastic engagement and positive energy is the solution. I concentrate on that. I do not concentrate on the problem, which was, go back 1 second, Kanchan. Just 1 second, yes. Grievance reduction is the problem. I don't want to talk about it, but instead I talk about how am I going to engage positive energy. If everybody turns positive, the negativity just goes down. Next. Tell me about a time when you experienced positive energy that was infectious. What was the situation? What created that positive energy? How did it feel to be part of it? And what did you learn? These are the kind of questions that we would ask. Reframe them in context, and you would have an opportunity, a huge window all for yourself. Next. If positive energy were the flame of your life, how would you spark it? How would you fuel it to keep it burning and bright? That's dream, envisioning what might be shared images for a preferred future. Next. Discovery is an opportunity context of the positive core. I know some of you would have seen this because you've done appreciative inquiry, but not too many slides, please, it's a refresher. Definition is deciding what to learn about the next. Designing is finding innovative ways to create that future breakthrough proposition. It's about discovery, it's about designing, and it's of course finally delivery or destiny, which is about sustaining the change itself. Next. 4 generic questions. What do you think is the core life-giving factor or value factor in your own life, in our own life? We could apply these to ourselves. What's going well in our practice? What's gone wrong with social work? Don't ask that question. What's going well with social work? What else could we do better in social work? What could be the future vision of social work? And through that, you've already desilted and got a whole lot of small things for which you prefer. Preference is problem solving. We'll go back to that, but soon you will pick up appreciating. Move on. That which did not exist would make your life totally different that currently is. Next. If you had 3 wishes for the organization or for your life, for your profession, what would it be? Doesn't focus on changing people. I'm now selling it. It doesn't focus on changing people. Relief that the message isn't about what they have done wrong or have to stop doing. Next. Invites people to engage in building the kinds of organization and communities that they want to live in. Helps everyone see the need for change, explores the new possibilities, and contribute to solutions. Through alignment of formal and informal structures with purpose and principles, it translates shared vision into reality and to belief and into practice. Why it works is because it's assumptions, conversation, there are dominant images, individual acts on both conscious and unconscious levels, and of course, you share the organizational infrastructure or the client's infrastructure to care. Next. 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 Equality. That creates a way for the organization to be a full voice about the true, good, and better and possible. What I've talked about in an organization could also be applicable to group and an individual. Next. A high participation, full voice process targeted at organizational innovation, group innovation, client life importance. It's an opportunity for us to identify and disseminate best practices. Next. A way of managing and working that fosters positive communication and can result in the formation of deep and meaningful relationships. Next. Here is how a teacher in New York started just the process of appreciation and thanks. Teacher in New York decided to honor each of her seniors in high school by telling them the difference each of them had made. Next. She called each student to the front of the class one at a time. First, she told each of them how they made a difference to her and the class. Next. Then she presented each of them with a blue ribbon imprinted with gold letters, which read, "Who I am makes the difference." Next. Afterwards, the teacher decided to do a class project to see what kind of impact recognition that would have on the community. She gave each student 3 more blue ribbons and instructed them to go out and spread this acknowledgement ceremony. Then they were to follow up on the results, see who honored whom, and report to the class in about a week. One of the boys in the class went to a junior executive in a nearby company and honored him for helping him with his career planning. He gave him a blue ribbon and put it on his shirt. Then he gave him 2 extra ribbons and said, "We are doing a class project on recognition, and we would like you to go out, find someone to honor, and give them a blue ribbon." Later that day, the junior executive went to see his boss, who had the reputation of being kind of a grouchy fellow. He told him that he deeply admired him for being a creative genius. He could be grumpy, he could be grouchy, but he could still be creative genius. Next. The boss seemed very surprised. The junior executive asked him if he would accept the gift of the blue ribbon and gave him permission to put it on him. His boss said, "Well, sure." The junior executive took one of the blue ribbons and placed it right on his boss's jacket above his heart. And then he asked, offering him the last ribbon, "Would you take this extra ribbon and pass it on to honoring somebody? The teenager who gave me these is doing a school project, and we want to keep this ribbon ceremony going and see how it affects people." That night, the boss came home and sat down with his 14-year-old son. He said, "The most incredible thing happened to me today. I was in my office and one of my employees came and told me he admired me and gave me a blue ribbon for being a creative genius." Next. Next. He gave me an extra ribbon and asked me to find somebody else to honor. As I was driving home tonight, I started thinking about who I would honor with this ribbon, and I thought about you. I want to honor you. My days are hectic, and when I come home, I don't pay a lot of attention to you. I yell at you for not getting good enough grades and also for your messy bedroom. Somehow tonight, I just wanted to sit here and, well, just let you know that you do make a difference to my life. Next. Who I am makes a difference. Besides your mother, you're the most important person in my life. You're a great kid, and I love you. Next. The startled boy started to sob and sob. He couldn't stop crying. His whole body shook. He looked up at his father and said, through his tears, "Dad, earlier tonight, I sat in my room and wrote a letter to you and Mom, explaining why I had to take my life. And I ask you to forgive me." Next. "I was going to commit suicide tonight after you were asleep. I just didn't think that you cared at all. The letter is upstairs. I don't think I'll need it after all." His father walked upstairs and found a heartfelt letter full of anguish and pain. The boss went back to work as a changed man. He was no longer a grouch, but made sure to let all of his employees know that they made a difference. The junior executive helped many other young people with career planning, one being the boss's son, and never forgot to let them know that they made a difference in his life. In addition, the young man and his classmates learned a valuable lesson. Have an awesome day and know that someone has thought about you today. Thank you very much.